Some people say I have a photographic memory. I don't. I got I'm maybe 98%. And but when I tell people something, I never forget. And so I sent an email 3 days ago. I gave it to one of my crack staff, and I expected a response within between 30 and 90 minutes. 3 days later, no response. So either I'm getting Alzheimer's or somebody forgot to send the email out to the... And so I checked, and yes, somebody forgot to send the email out. Because I couldn't imagine that I wouldn't get a response. And it's like, fuck you, strong letter to follow. Which is one of my, but now it's fuck you, strong email to follow, or fuck you, strong link fuck to follow, but from the old days. So I forget very, very, very few things, if any. At 2:30, we're having Dom that will talk about a millions, who's a wealth banker, ex-wealth banker. I don't know if you're ever ex-wealth banker, anyway. From Switzerland, who will, on not Skype, on whatever it's called, live stream, whatever, that will entertain your questions. Till then, and somebody was asking me on a phone call a little while ago, the group, because the hitters call in, well, how are they doing? Are they as stupid as and I go, yeah, no, every once in a while, a blind hog will get an acorn. Does everybody understand? Every once in a while, a blind hog will get an acorn. And I said, well, how can you describe this group? And I said, well, I'll give you one incident. A guy locked himself in the gym at 1 o'clock in the morning and couldn't get out and had to call my fucking office in Manila. He says, no fucking way. I said, yeah. And he says, a guy locked himself in the gym and called your office in Manila at 1 o'clock in the morning? I said, more or less. Yeah, not the part about locking in, but the 1 o'clock is more or less. I don't know. Fortunately, I was asleep. Actually, I was awake, and I was trying to fall back asleep after I went to bed. But anyway. And he said, so they're normal. I said, yeah, they're fucking meatheads. And he says, how many have said they want to be billion company, billion? I said, well, most of them. And he laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. He's up there. He says, okay, kick him in the teeth for me. I said, I will. Any questions?
Do you want to cover that India thing?
Yeah, I got 10 years ago or so, CEO of our Indian company stole several $100,000 from us, and we found it. But the first incident of finding it is that Sally asked to look at the books, and the CFO said she couldn't see the books. And so I come back to the office and tells me, she said, we have a problem. I said, what is it? And she told me what happened. I said, so-and-so said you couldn't see the books. I said, yeah. Now, this is before I knew that they clipped us for $200-300 grand. So I went into his office, and I waited till after lunch to make sure there was 300 people in the office. I waited. Now, you'd go have a quiet word with him. And I went into his office, and he stood up, and I grabbed him by the neck, and I said, I didn't even ask him if it was true. I drug him from his desk around the office square with his legs dragging out like this, dragging him like this, hitting his head on the fucking tables, all the way around the circle till I got to the elevator. The elevator was, all elevators in India are busted. Till I got to the elevator and I threw him down the staircase. Then we looked at the books and found out that the guy had clipped us for $280 or $290 grand. And so we fired him. And then his uncle, and they call everybody uncle there, his uncle came, who was the chief of police or something, came and closed us down, and ensued a huge fight. And we got slandered in 2 of the big papers. And it took 2.5 years, more or less, to clear our name. They what do you call it? And we had ultimately, the charges were not the charges for assault. They never charged me for assault because life's cheap there. I mean, the charges for whatever the charges they trumped up were eventually dropped, and there's a little one sentence and a link in the bottom of my Wikipedia that talks about it. They said there was a misstatement of facts, is what they called it, which I found amusing. And we still have 2 big lawsuits, one against the Times of India and one against some other one. But if you go to Bangalore in the IT business with the net scum, I am legendary. Now that's how I handle a problem. And that's how they handle problems. Now I wish that I dropped him down the elevator shaft. Because he bounced and, he didn't die, he just kind of bounced, And for those of you that have ever done it, the way they fall downstairs, that's not how it is in real life. For those of you, and when you hit these people, and when people's going to put a cap in your ass or shoot you, they don't say, okay, Hector, you got any last words? They fucking just shoot you. They don't fuck with you, like that. But that's India. We made a lot of money there, though. A lot of money. Indians are very, very bright, exceedingly bright. In fact, Bill Gates, about the same time, said words to the effect, the smartest IT people on the planet are in southern India. I don't know if that's still true, but there's some smart guys there. Super, super smart. And then we had offices there. We had 2 offices there, and then we had an office in Gurgaon, which is the IT kind of satellite of Delhi. And it's hot there, hot. The temperature. But smart people, really smart. Did I answer your question?
Most of it.
What's the other part of it?
Part of it was like, what's your mindset when the charges got trumped against you?
Okay, mine or my partners were devastated. They were crushed. They put one of them in jail. They took his passport. They retained him, put him under house. I mean, all kind of shit happened. And like all my partners say, they waited till Dan left town. I'm on a plane flying from wherever I was, from India, and then they went in and they raided and did all the shit. That never happens when I'm there. Luck, serendipity, or how I might react. I'm not sure. You call it what you will. My mindset is this. If we're at war and I'm there, we're not going to die. Okay, and we got the best lawyers and everybody. Not everybody, but there's a lot of corruption in the legal system there, and so we got good lawyers. Now I could have dropped the case as long as 7-8 years ago, but I'm not going to. And so every time we go to court, the judge says, "This is a nuisance lawsuit." $100 million lawsuit in India, that's a lot of fucking rupees. That's not so much nuisance. So they postpone it. They've been postponing it for 3-4 years. But we have a full-time lawyer down there doing it. And it just, it's the same mindset I had when I wound up suing. Well, I had to sue Great Western. If they would have paid me, I would have never sued them. When they threw me out, they had the right to throw me out, but they didn't have the right to fucking keep all my money. And we're going to talk about litigation as a business tool. We're going to read an email from a cunt guy his balls are about as big as peas, and he sucked up his pantyhose, and he did what I say to do after a few years of getting fucked around, and he beat him like a stepchild. And by the way, I'm not implying you should beat stepchildren, or I'm not implying, so don't give me all this fucking hate shit, so go fuck yourselves. I'm not implying that you beat him like a rented meal. Those are metaphors, you stupid fuckheads. So, don't give me that shit. But he went in there and he kicked their ass. And But litigation, if you don't learn how to use litigation, you will never be billion-dollar company. I guarantee it. That's the second guarantee in the seminar. There's no way possible that you can be a billion-dollar company and not learn how to fight in court. We got a whole 2-hour block on it, I think, tomorrow. And that's why many of you, your personalities are not going to be a billion-dollar company, not going to be a $100 million company. And that's just the cold fucking facts. Because you can always lose in court. I haven't, but you can. I used to be 268-0 or 291, and I stopped keeping track of it. I count my divorce as a loss, even though I didn't lose in court, but I count that as a loss. That's a Bach ball. My lawyer called a Bach when you're baseball, and the guy doesn't really throw the pitch. What's it called? Bach. Yeah, Bach. I call that as a Bach. Yeah, that's exactly, yeah. Sorry, Linda, but anyway. But I have because I learned how, and you hire, I'm getting ahead of myself, you hire the best lawyers you cannot afford. Cannot! If you can afford the lawyer, it's not the right lawyer. Well, in your case, you guys can't afford any lawyer, so I got to change the definition of that because any old lawyer, and not your brother-in-law, not your cousin, not the dipshit you went to grammar school with. Fuck all those guys or gals. That's not who I mean. I mean the big fucking hitters, the ones that Microsoft uses, the ones that IBM uses, because then you're on a level playing field. You're on a level playing field. Now did I answer your question? Okay. You're welcome. Okay. Now, we're going through the steps of we're still in the first step. And beyond common sense, and I find this section funny because common sense is only common experience. But common sense to you, Ryan, and to you, Joe, is based on your common experience, based on your social and economic milieu, your background, your experiences in life. Okay? And yours based with Steve Jobs compare to Steve or myself is different. So what makes sense to you by definition won't make sense to me. And we use Robert as an example. You can see how his ability or his sense of what was right or fair, etc., from the other side changed over the 3 or 4 years that he fought with the people that he talked about fighting with. And it'll change. But you don't have time to grow into this unless you want to make it. See, we teach you how to create enough wealth, the same amount of wealth it would take 1 or 2 generations. A generation, depending on how you want to define it, is 20 to 25 years. 1 generation. 2 generations would be between 40 and 50 years. Well, this is not the 40, 50-year program here. That's the program you've been on now, so far, heretofore. And that's why a lot of you have decided not to do it, because I'm not going to waste 40, 50 years. I'd rather have a good time, fuck around. I'd rather fart and belch and go to sports bars with my buddies. And I would agree with you if you're in the 40, 50-year program. So we do it in 3 to 5 years if you're good. And the norm for my program with most of my people is 6 to 8 years. 6 to 8 years. I mean, to get fucking big, not just to make a few shekel. Goodbye, YouTubers.